Hey everybody, welcome back to Gigs, Get Into Game Streams. This month we have probably the most requested panel, and that is a community manager panel. I myself would like to learn about community managers and what exactly they do, so I've invited three awesome community managers to come and tell us a little bit about themselves and answer any of your questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask those in the YouTube chat. If you've asked any on the Facebook chat, don't worry, I'm already going to go ahead and talk about those, and those are the ones we're going to get to first. So I'm going to ask Eric to start by introducing himself, telling us about what he does, how he got into the industry, how he got to where he is, and then everybody else will go through themselves as well. So Eric, start us off.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Grant. Yeah, I'm Eric Ippolito. I'm community manager here at Scopely in Culver City. Just actually got started here a couple months ago, so we're still. I'm working with the team here to really build out the community team. The games that we have is right now are Dice and Yahtzee, and we also have the Walking Dead game, Road to Survival, which is pretty cool. Basically, what are the questions? Just what I've done, or like what do I do, or how I got into the industry?
Yeah. Well, you talked about where you work and what you do, but talk about how you got into the industry, how you got this job.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm new here. Yeah, it's kind of, I guess I would say it's kind of been a long time process, I guess, for me getting into community management, because I'm definitely a major gamer, and even when I was younger, I was always involved on communities, on the forums and on various social channels, and always following the blogs or the video logs of the companies that I really appreciated. And I think most impactful was probably America's Army. The game. Used to play a ton of that, especially over the summer during school, and they had enlisted guys that would manage the forums, and you'd always get guys on there, and they'd say, "Hey, I've got ping spikes, or I've got all these issues," or whatever, and everybody's got issues because we were still playing on dial-up or whatever back then. It's terrible. And the soldiers, they would be super patient, and they'd ask you to export the DX diag report or whatever, and they'd help you, if they could or whatever. And I really admired that. I admired it because, they'd complain about this and that, and they were always super patient. And then so basically, I went to college for marketing, and when I left, I kind of got the opportunity to really, take some time and figure out what I really wanted to do, because I'd done a little bit of marketing before, but it was in banking, and I wasn't really passionate about banking. I really loved what I was doing. I got to work with all sorts of different people. I got to do some Photoshop, work on computers, and things like that. But I wasn't really passionate about the industry, and so I had the opportunity to decide, what do I really want to do, and I thought, video games is what I'm super passionate about. I really love video games growing up. And so I kind of did a lot of research and seeing what I could do to actually get involved. I started out writing articles for a website called Goozer Nation. I did a podcast with Jason Trent for Goozecast, or for GoozeX, which was called the Goozecast. We did that for a couple of years. Helped organize things for the IGDA and things like that, and then slowly kind of worked my way up or whatever. I started at, just to wrap it up, then I started at Beef Jack Studios. We're kind of like a really short, really like small startup or whatever. We were helping people make games. We were making some games ourselves. And I actually started out as a producer. But then I had the opportunity to do community management, which was moderating forums, coming up with contests, and doing video walkthroughs for the game. One of the games that we had, and it was just kind of like a lot of those experiences kind of helped equip me for what I'm doing right now, and then slowly worked my way up. Got a job at Zynga, then another company, and then right before this, I was at Penny Pop, managing and building out their community and things like that. Yeah.
Sweet, awesome, Shane.
Hi, I'm Shane Meyer. and I am the community manager for Total Rock Studios. We work on Evolve and Evolve Stage 2, and previously Left 4 Dead. I am relatively new to the industry, probably the newest in this call for sure. But actually my previous career was medical, in the medical field for medical billing. It all really started, I guess, back when I was really small. I used to daydream about creating video games, and I have notebooks full of video games and designs and drawings and characters and stories, and then at some point all that kind of got squelched, and I felt like that was never going to happen. Like that's some kind of a dream, you know. There's not many people probably in the industry, let alone girls, let alone, you know, everyone thinks it's silly. So I kind of definitely stepped back from believing that was a possibility, and I just kind of went where the wind took me, which was customer service, and then tried to go into medical in college, and it didn't really work out. I wasn't passionate about it. I'm more of a creative person. But in high school, I was best friends with Jessica Damhurst, and we would create websites together and videos together and just have a lot of fun brainstorming these things and learning on these platforms together. And it was only about a year ago, so it had been almost 10 years that we'd been friends, and I'd moved and she'd moved, and she's been all over the world. And I came back for Easter to say hi to her and her family, and she'd been visiting too at the same time, and she said, hey, you know, how do you feel about coming to California to do an interview at the studio? I really need someone who knows how to video edit, and I know that you're good, and I know we work well together. And at this point, I'd forgotten my hobby. I'd forgotten what made me feel creative and really attached to what made me feel passionate, the stuff that really excited me. And I just kind of got stuck in this pattern of, this is life, I'm going to die here, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to have a family, I'm going to live in Florida forever, and medical bill. And I stayed up all night that night at her house, like wide awake, just staring, like, is this what I want to do? Should I just do it? Let's just do it. I've never been out of the state, you know, and it was like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. So I said, sure, let's go. And I think it was only a couple weeks later they did a phone call interview with me, and it went well. So they sent me out to the studio, and I did 9 interviews with 9 people.
Yeah.
And it was super scary because I didn't know everything about social analytics, and I didn't know everything about, you know, what drew the eye and what was super, you know, all the marketing techniques you would learn in school. I'm sure Eric knows. And I just kind of just winged it. I went with what I knew and what I felt, and I guess I got the okay from all of them, which was really crazy. Because at this point, I'm in the interview crying like, Turtle Rock's one of my favorite studios. You guys made Left 4 Dead. Like, oh my God, this is the best day of my life, you know. And I'm like, even if you don't hire me, fuck it, I got to come out here, and I'm so privileged. This is so great. And we were driving. Jess drove me back to the hotel, and they called and they said, no, we want to offer you the job. And there it was. This is just like life-changing. Like, everything changed around for me. I moved across the country, you know, left everything behind, lost everything. Family, like, went different ways, and it was really scary, but I really couldn't be happier. Like, life is really exciting. And now I can do, my passion is my job now. So I do a lot of the videos and the graphics, pretty much, I guess, these days, all of it. Along with all the community building, which I was a part of when I was part of the community for Evolve. I was very passionate watching Jess launch the game and being with her through that and talking with her and just really being a huge advocate. And that kind of was an open doorway, like, well, you know so much and you've been with us since the beginning, you know the community, and you have these skills. So thank everyone who believed in me, including Jess, for this opportunity. But yeah, it's been crazy. And I was hired actually as coordinator, community coordinator. So I started out doing a lot of the social media and the responding and becoming the community's friend and doing, you know, helping Jess, assisting her with everything that she needed. And then one day they needed a video, and Jess was booked. She didn't have time to do it, and they needed it like in a day. So I did a character reveal video over the weekend, and then a week later it was up at Gamescom on the big, huge TVs. And They shipped me out to Germany, and I'm like, I'm in Germany, I've never been out of the country. Like, this is crazy. So I'm sitting there, and this video that I made is up on this huge TV in front of all these people, and it was revealed, and everyone's clapping, and I'm just sitting there like, this is wow, like what, wow, life can change, you know, so suddenly and so drastically, and that dream that I had when I was little wasn't just a dream or a fluke or that's not going to happen. Like, here it is. I was there. And so that was really crazy. And shortly later, Jess decided she wanted to move abroad. And a community person had to be on site because there was just so much going on with the title. As you guys have seen, we launched as free-to-play for Stage 2. So there was just a lot of prep that needed to happen. And initially, we were going to launch in February. So it would have been within 2 months of her leaving. So I stayed on. It was just me at the time, and then my producer, Chloe. And I just made a whole bunch of videos. We didn't have much marketing support, so it was all within the studio. And so it was all video-focused and community-focused and trying to figure out how we were going to market it. So I stayed back and did the best I could. And I got a called in the office about 3 months later, and they said, hey, you know, let's do this. You're community manager, kick ass. Show me if you can do it. Like, show me this is an opportunity for you. And it's been 5 months now, and I have an awesome community team. I have a community coordinator that we also hired from within the community. But he was originally hired to be a balance tester. So now he's like half balance tester, half community coordinator, and kicking ass. He was deep within the community before we hired him. So he's very passionate as well and knows a lot of the in and outs just from being there. And I have a producer, Tara Velker, who was originally Live Ops. So she's half Live Ops, half community, and that gives me a good gauge of what's going on as I'm new to the industry. So she's been a great help as well. And so yeah, we're 3 strong, and still with the new launch, it's been super hectic as we're doing all the marketing, mainly in the graphics and videos and community managing. So hopefully we'll be looking for another one soon. But yeah, so that's 3, you know, I think there was a total of 6 people actually hired within the community to the studio so far.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's
That's
definitely,
awesome.
It's not a pipe dream. Miracles happen.
I like how you're like, believe in your dreams even when you forget they're your dreams.
Yeah.
No, that's super important. I think I'd also want to iterate that too, because I think it's super important for people to, you know, really go after what they're passionate about. And I mean, it's like I came from banking and you came from medical, and I mean that's not too uncommon in this industry. What I've seen, you know, people coming from industries. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those, but there's definitely something very wrong if you're in those industries just because you think it's, you know, a reputable industry and you're not passionate about it. Because, you know, why do those industries want people who aren't passionate about what they do either? So you should definitely go after what really fulfills you, and you know, and I think, you know, video games are a great place for that too.
Yeah, and if you want to hear from somebody who's pretty passionate, that's why I have Gray on here.
Oh,
Dude is super passionate. That's my smooth transition.
Yeah.
That was very nice. That was very smooth. I like that. Very Grant-esque of you. So my foray into community management is a little different. So I've been a gamer since Pong. That's not an exaggeration. I really did have Pong. I can remember hitting the little switches on there to choose the different games you could play. All right. I've been a bulletin board manager back before the internet came around, and I've been a forum manager forever and a day. I can tell you right now that knowing how to manage a forum and moderate a forum is invaluable.
It is.
Because forums are where it's at. We'll get to that in a little bit. So my foray. So I'm a Navy veteran. I was a hospital corpsman, which means I was a medic for the Navy in '95 to '98. And I've had about 500 different jobs in between then and now. I've been like an attorney. I've been in food service. I've been a kitchen manager. You know, I've done a lot of things. Of course, I'm old, so that's what happens. So I went to ECGC, the East Coast Gamers Conference, 2013. That's actually when I met Grant. Go figure, right? So I'm there, and I'm walking around, and I'm doing my little podcast, because I had a podcast that I've been running for about 3 years or so, all about video games and the industry and things like that. And I meet up with this lady who's talking about her game, and you know, what?
Oh, you froze for a second. Keep going.
I froze, but that was actually me. I actually froze. See, that was very good. But anyway, look, I live in a small town, so my internet is not that great. So I apologize if I freeze. Yeah, Google Fiber ain't coming down here. So I saw this lady, and she was talking about this game called The Secret World, and her name is Lori Payne. And Lori was having some trouble getting people over, maybe not having so trouble as it's my forte, and I can bring people over because I am an attraction. I'm 6'5", and I have a loud voice, and I know how to use it. Trust me, people are going to come and pay attention.
Sure.
So we did a raffle, and we gave away some video cards and some stuff like that, and she told me what she did for a living. She said, I'm a community manager, and I'm like, why have I never heard of this job before? What do you do? You know, she said, well, I go to forums, I do events like this, you know, and I just started listening to what I said, okay, for the first time in my life, you have just given me direction. You have just told me what I want to do with the rest of my life. It's just that simple. I want to do what you do. So I didn't know she was doing this, but she brought over their recruitment specialist, because, you know, they kind of farm out that stuff sometimes, for FunCom. And I met with that gentleman at the conference and talked to him, and it was just myself. That's key. Be yourself. And then I was called into a job interview 2 weeks later. It took about a month for me to get the job completely, but once I got in, they dropped me in there like I was magic or something. Poor Lori was doing all of the community management for, at that point, 3 active MMOs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They brought me in for number 4. When I had left, they had 4 active MMOs and 1 just standalone game that they were working with. They were very much of a starvation society, and be prepared for that if you want to go into community management, because that's going to happen a lot. But I was listening, and everybody was talking about, and so, you know, you will need skills like Photoshop or Paint. If you're really good in Paint,
Yeah.
I am a master in Paint. I can make things look really weird, and my stick figures are legendary.
Yes.
So, you know, sometimes you can get by on that. My Photoshop is, it's not that great. But knowing how to manage forums, different software for forums is very important, and knowing how to talk. You have to be able to talk to people, and even if it's talking in person, talking online, you have to have a consistent voice throughout. So that's my 2 cents, and we can go on to some of these questions that I know are just burning in people's souls.
Wait. How did you get to where you are? You ended at FunCom, and you're not at FunCom right now.
I kind of did end it. Well, I was telling you how I got into the
500
business.
jobs.
Yeah, it's like FunCom.
Now what? Okay, no. Good point. So December of last year is when I started with my new job, and you want to talk about taking things that seem to make sense and putting them together. Okay, I'm a Navy veteran, and I like video games, and I'm a community manager. So how about we put this guy into a position where he's a community manager for a veteran service organization that helps troops through video games? Yes, duh. So
Is that how you is that how your interview went?
Believe it or not, my interview was strange.
This guy.
It was. They heard about me. They had heard about me because I had a friend who was working with them, and the COO invited me over to his house. He actually happens to live in the same town I do, which is amazing because we're a multinational organization, and he lives 10 minutes down the road. So I go and I sit down at his house, and this is a sergeant major in the Army. Okay, for those of you who don't know, that's almost the highest enlisted rank you can be in the Army. And it's a rather intimidating thing. So he's sitting there, and he's like, it's kind of like a "so what are your intentions with my daughter," except it's "so what are your intentions with my company," you know? And I told him straight up, I love the organization, can't do it for free, got a family I got to take care of, but I really want to help you guys out. And from that point on, we had a plan of how I would transition from where I was at Funcom and move into Operation Supply Drop. And it was the best thing I could have done. Wow, Eric, apparently you're going dark on us, man.
Whoa.
Wow, that
We
was
have automated lights here.
entertaining there.
When you don't move and the lights turn off.
So anyway, Operation Supply Drop is a great charity. We do help active duty and veterans by shipping video games, new games, not this old crap. You're not going to see Barbie's Horse Adventures in there.
Hey now, good game.
No, that's a 360 game. That's why it's not in there. See, they have even Pinata for the Xbox One, you know. But anyway, we ship everything over there. We've had lots of great donators, civilian supporters and veterans alike. Games, GA, EMS, the games cases, you know, the clamshells that they have. They've donated a ton of those things to us. So we're very fortunate. We're able to help out as many veterans as we can. That's just one of our programs. We have a lot of other ones, but it all revolves around having fun.
That's awesome. So, I think it's really interesting that each of you has like a unique and different story. You come from different backgrounds, but ultimately, what's important to you is communities, right? Communities are what's important, and obviously community is important to me. That's why I run this organization. I like to think of it as a fun community. Anyways, we'll get into the questions. If you have any questions, feel free to add them to chat. I've seen a couple come through, but we'll start with the ones that were on Facebook. So Belinda Zoller asked 3 questions, so we'll start with hers. Why do some companies seem to struggle with any kind of community management despite having hired people for the job?
Can I have this one? I know this one.
Y'all can answer it.
Okay, so it's because they don't know what community managers do.
No.
I'm just going to be straight up. They have no idea what a community manager is. They often think that it's marketing. And I've heard marketing a couple of times today, and I'm like, I cringe a little bit because marketing is its own thing. You go to school for that. It's statistics. It's not me and you. That's community. Community is building a group of people, not to sell them, but to engage them. So the back to the question, why is it sometimes they hire people and it's because they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know what a community manager does. That's why.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty fair. And one thing to also iterate on that is I think, community management is pretty well defined right now, but I mean, one thing that I find really exciting about it is that it's not completely defined. Is that it's always developing, and it's still so new that there's so many things that you do that's just like you're trailblazing. This hasn't ever been done before, and that's pretty exciting. But it's a lot of times that is kind of the cost of it, is that you really have to express your value and how that affects your players and things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely where we are at Turtle Rock Studios. It was definitely a question that was brought up more than once, where they would ask, what does community do, or coordinator, what do you do, or community manager, what do you even do? But they're not totally aware, and a lot of the studio's not aware. Still, a lot of the studio has no idea, even though we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, and we're shipping the game, and we're jumping on all the social, and we're putting out all these videos and getting things sent through legal, and we're throwing events, and we're sending off giveaways, and we're directing and producing live streams, and we've got all this stuff going on, and everybody's just has no clue. It's funny. We try to keep them involved in a lot of stuff, because one of our big pushes is to show that the devs are people, and that so people can relate to them. So we're not just this company that creates this game and sits up on this high horse and looks down at you. We're people that are gamers too, and we want to know what they think, and we want to know their feedback, and we want to converse and be friends with them. And it's been working really great so far. It feels great. Ever since this launch, we were able to basically create that whole message, is that we're people too, and a lot of the devs are responding well, but in the end, a lot of the people just don't don't know. But it's also, as Eric was saying, it depends on what your skills are too. So, for example, me being in there as community manager, I have a certain set of skills where I focus mainly on, besides interacting with people, mainly on my own time, I guess I would say, because most of the time I've got to be creating assets or graphics or social schedules and content calendars. But I do a lot of the stuff that, say, another community manager is mainly focused on analytics and the social strategy, which is also super great, but it depends on kind of the community and also combining those efforts. So working together as a community and getting together with other community managers and bouncing ideas and learning things from each other, because we all have different sets of skills, but community manager job can actually be very it can involve a lot more than what anyone would think. And I think that's what makes it so exciting. Like every day is something totally new, it feels.
As far as definitions go, I feel like the best one that I really like most is that community managers are the voice of the player to the team and the voice of the team to the players. So you're kind of like a representative or a liaison in a sense, and then everything else that you use, whether that's social channels or or Scrum or things like that, those are the channels that you use to accomplish that.
I've actually heard a term for that, and it's called Ombudsman, O-M-N-B-U-D-S-M-A-N, Ombudsman. It's actually something that comes, or at least from my experience in the military, and it's a person who's there, and their job is to make sure you're okay, take care of you, but also talk to the chain of command and make sure they're taking care of you and they're taking care of it. It's exactly what we've all said. A nice word, ombudsman. Unfortunately, not everybody knows that word.
I'm gonna have that added to my title.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, when you do that, somebody's gonna be like, "What is that?" And you say, "Community management." that right there. That's community. Just add some Photoshop in there. You got it.
Yeah.
Paint. Paint. I'm a paint guy. Just saying. That's what I'm probably not a community manager. All right. The next question I think is kind of like a good kind of follow-up to that, and Belinda asked this one as well. Why does it appear that some companies deliberately pursue a closed-off strategy in their community management practices?
Are we talking communication-wise, do you think? Like transparency, we can't really be very communicative between us and the community? Because that's I've definitely heard of that, where some studios don't even allow people to stream or communicate or really have any one-on-one time. And I think it's not so much messaging as trying to be like that's their voice, that's how they are, but more so legal or like higher up. The highest pay grade kind of decisions, but that's if that's what they mean, that's what I feel.
Yeah, let me kind of read the rest of the question. So, have you guys ever been in a culture where people are more like, we don't really want to interact with the fan community? Is there ever a good reason to be like, hey, we're not going to talk right now? We're going to start building this community a little bit more at a later date or anything like that. That's kind of the question, is more like, right now maybe we're not going to engage, we're going to be closed off. Some games ship and they have no community management even though they have like an online community. I guess kind of that was the question. What would the reasoning be?
I can tell you from...
Oh, go ahead.
I win. I can tell you that from my experience, it's because sometimes we don't want the developers to say anything. I said it to Cliffy B the other day when we were at the Game Dev Drink Up, cheap plug, that I hate developers because they are the worst. They are worse than players when it comes to community management, because they can go and say something and ruin your life as a community manager. They can go say, hey, this is working as intended from now on, and you're just sitting there going, we just released that it wasn't there. There's no bug. What are you talking about? So we sometimes there's a mindset of don't let the developers talk to the players, because that's not they're not really good at that. That's why we're here. I don't tell you how to write code. Don't tell me how to react to the community. That's my 2 cents.
One other thing that's worth mentioning too is, it's, a company has a communication style, just like any person, but as a company, it's like massive, kind of like Shane was talking about, where you have, legal or the dev team or certain features, like maybe this certain thing hasn't been addressed, and there are very specific reasons why it can't be addressed or can't be addressed at that time. And maybe companies like Valve, maybe they value self-sustaining communities. Like if you're on Steam or whatever, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they value that players interacting with themselves, and they like to kind of be in the background, observing and evaluating and things like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not there, but Valve on their site and stuff even says, if someone finds some sort of thing lacking in their company, then maybe say, hey, I think I could be your community manager because these are the areas that you could benefit from, having a community manager. But I don't know. It just really depends. I mean, other things could be just priority, like maybe the manager who would be hiring a community manager or really enabling them to have a voice. He's working on something else and he doesn't have the time to either create a communication strategy or have that person do it. Have like a community director who could really say, this is the voice of the brand and this is how we want to communicate. Be super transparent, or a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say that we went through what was called the dark time, where
The dark times.
the dark time in between when we were when we were moving on from Evolve to Evolve Stage 2, we kind of went into our own dark time where it was, do we spend all of our time interacting with our community and making events and, really keeping these 200 people on the forums that are active happy? Or do we put all of our energy towards what's coming in the future for the potentially thousands and thousands, now 2 million people that we have coming and going? And that was a hard decision, and I still was fairly active in the forums, but there just wasn't much going on, and a lot of people were really, you could see it coming through, right? There was a reflection where they were like, you don't care, we haven't heard from you, or it feels weird, but it's just kind of something that had to happen so that we could focus all of our energy on this launch specifically. And I had heard previously to going through all of that there was times where community teams shut down for like a month or two when they're going through one title to another maybe. But we didn't go through that. We were still around, but I have heard of it before. So I think it's just kind of a strategy. Just like when we came back full force with this grassroots devs have a voice kind of messaging, we were preparing that, and we weren't sure if we wanted to leak it out here and there or just make as much as we can, make as much content, and then just come out with that along, and the new voice kind of along with this launch, which was more dev-centric, more chill, less get good. And that was what we were really striving for as a studio, and we were blessed that they let us go with that messaging, because it feels good. Feels good, man.
Feels good, bro. All right. Next question from Sarah Gallardo. She has a couple. How can you avoid getting too discouraged when you're building a community from the ground up?
I'll take that one. I think just like anything, you just kind of have to really focus on the positives and and focus on kind of the long term. Like if you're hitting snags, I mean, every community manager has that. Like maybe players aren't coming in as many players as you wanted. Focus on the ones that are super passionate. You'll always find those guys who you can make them moderators. You can make them influencers somehow, and really get them to bring in their friends, but you really have to focus on the positives, what you're accomplishing, and the end goal too. I mean, I've been on communities that took a while to get some traction, and whether that was dev side where features that I was wanting built out took some time, or maybe not enough people were joining the forums or whatever at the time, but eventually it gets better, and you just gotta keep looking for ways to improve.
I feel that pain. I will say that frustration is part of the job. If your goal is not to be frustrated, don't do this for a living. And that's because part of what you're doing is you're trying to transfer passion and engagement. So I could sit here and tell you about the most wonderful game in the entire world, and I could tell you why it's the best thing you should ever buy. But if you don't believe it, and you don't believe me that I'm saying it, then we're not going to have any kind of community relation going on there, right? And so the frustration can't come out. It can't be, I hate you fucking players, I'm banning everybody. You know,
the ban hammer.
Oh yes, bring on the ban hammer. My most trying community ever, and I don't mind saying it, was the Age of Conan community. They don't like change, and they don't like it when you come in there and say, hey, I want to try and help, because they've heard that 5 billion times before. So the way I got past the frustration is just to be as honest as I could, as honest as they would allow me to be, as the company would allow me to be, and never ever lie. You can obfuscate, you can tell the truth in ways that from a perception are correct, but lying outright is a no-no.
They'll find out. They always do. That's why
they take screenshots.
Yeah, they.
When they're sitting there editing a post, and they're like, "Oh no, I saw what you wrote the first time."
Right. Don't edit, delete, and start over.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next question. What are your best tips for someone wanting to get into community management as a profession? Like, what can they do to be awesome?
I would say the first step would be to get into a community and see what it's like, and really get a feel for what a community for anything, whatever. If you're going into video games specifically, find your favorite game. Get yourself into the forums, which is really important, because that's most likely where the most influential people are, or the devs, or someone who's running it, the community manager for sure. And just really get involved, make new people feel good, really engage with others, and show that you're a good positive force. If things get negative, try and find the light in everything, and help where you can, put links where you can, and really take an initiative to show that you're passionate about this name, about this brand, about this IP. And that can do magical things. It can probably, move you up at some point, depending on how long those people have been there, or if the community is growing, there's more opportunity to move to leader or moderator. But that's a really nice way to become well-known with the dev team or the community manager, and they can feel at ease knowing that you're good at what you do. But that would probably be my biggest suggestion, would just be get in the community, get into a community, see what it's like, see if it's what you really want to do, observe what they do, and get a feel for the things they have to deal with, because it isn't always sunshine and rainbows. In fact, I would say, depending on what, brand you're working on, where they are in their evolution as an IP, it can be really great, and it can be really hard, and you just gotta observe that and see if that's something that you're willing to deal with all the time, and always look on the bright side with, because it can be hard.
My first and foremost suggestion would be to constantly work on improving your spelling and your grammar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true too.
That's why I'm not a community manager.
One of the biggest things is, you're constantly communicating with the players, but you're also given ownership of the social channels too. So if you made some sort of formal announcement, it'd have to be pretty clean looking and succinct and everything like that. And especially if some news network took a screenshot of it and said, "Oh, look what this company is doing. This is great. Oh, but look at all the spelling mistakes," and then they'd feel really embarrassed to have you representing them. But most community managers, I guess pretty much all the community management roles that I've interviewed for, like, to have work with me, we've always given them some sort of written test. Examples like, "Hey, this guy is saying this on the forums or Facebook or wherever. How would you respond to that?" And they have to write it up.
Banhammer.
And yeah, that gives us two sort of things. It tells us, how well are they at writing, and two, how well are they at communicating too. So that's super important.
I'd agree completely. It's a lost art, English is, and it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. And you might think, well, if I use the wrong there, then that's not really that important, right?
It's the most important.
The common mistakes. If you are reading something and you don't cringe a little bit when they make a spelling error, this might not be the job for you.
Very accurate.
I mean, honestly, because I go on Imager and I'll read the text on there, and my brain, I can feel it corroding slowly inside. And it's not even leet speak. It's just, oh, it's so bad. But yes, I definitely agree with the spelling. I don't know if I agree with being in the community, and here's why. Having been a community manager for multiple MMOs, we had lots of volunteers who were moderators, and they were fantastic. Loved every one of them. Would I ever let any of them in control of our social media? Never. Maybe one guy, but honestly, no. The idea is that those are fans, right? And maybe it's a little different with MMOs as opposed to standalone games, but if I see somebody in the forums as a community manager and they're pushing hard, I want to help them help me, but I'm not going to try and help them get to where I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I still think there's a lot of, what do you call it? What's the word? I don't know. I think Shane has a really good point, though, because even if you're not the one that's directly hiring the person, and I've seen a lot, like Destiny hired their last two community managers from the community, and that's great, especially worked out for them. But even if that doesn't happen, down the road, you're going to get into a game, and all of that experience is going to really pay off for you. You're going to have all these experiences. Maybe they make you moderator, maybe it's just an unpaid moderator role or whatever, and you learn how to use the bulletin, or you just get good at answering people on Reddit or things like that. So I think it's always super valuable to be part of the community, and definitely the ones you're passionate about.
I agree that it is absolutely key to know what it is you're doing and to be in there and have that experience. Absolutely agree with that 100%. Teach, actually, I've known Deej for 8 years,
Right.
and we have a constant debate on whose voice is better. I think we all know it's me. It's okay. We don't have to tell him that. But no, he did. He came from the community, and Bungie came calling, and he was right there. Now, granted, Deej did a lot more than moderation. I mean, He was raising money for charities. He was organizing events. These are all things you need to know how to do because you're going to be doing it. So
No, that's true. And Deej, by the way, I think Deej is one of the most eloquent community managers, verbally and in text too. He's a good guy.
I liked you so much. That's all right.
I want to be eloquent. Wow. Okay. Anyway.
I'm still working on mine.
I think if anything, man, you guys have really pointed out that there's just so many different paths in, and it's just important to be super paying attention to all the different moving parts and watching different people and learning from them. I think that's super interesting. With that in mind, Sarah had another question. What does a typical day look like to you?
I'll let you guys go first.
There's such a thing as a typical day?
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Here's my typical day. I should say typical day, meaning there aren't any sort of ongoing fires or whatever. But I mean, that's the first thing that I would do. I would, sign in, say hi to everybody. I'd check for issues. Check the CS chats. If I'm actually also doing support tickets, I'd make sure there weren't a large amount of tickets more than usual that came in over the night or whatever. Or if we had a service that helped us do tickets over the time that I was in the office, they'd usually send me an email and I'd check those. Just see if there are any major issues that happen. Because if there's some major issue like, oh hey, by the way, the game, no one can get into the game, then I would get up and talk to somebody about that right then.
Emergency patch going out tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, right now. Usually that sort of thing you'd get alerts for, but whatever. And then I'd kind of read up on trending topics, Facebook and Twitter and things like that, sometimes Reddit. Then I usually have, here I usually have a couple of scrums and see what everybody's doing, talk about what I'm going to be doing throughout the day, what I plan on doing, things that I'm working on, and then the producer usually, help me out if there are any sort of blockers or whatever. And then I go on social and make some posts and then answer people, have we gotten any mentions, have we gotten any direct messages and things like that, and try to answer and go through, and if there's something that I can do with the CS or dev tool or something like that, then I'll just try to help them out or direct them to the people who can. And then usually I'll work on specs for events that we're running or features that I would like to have added to various games, this and that, and then just kind of tons of things throughout the day, just stuff that comes up, questions that come up or issues. Maybe a player has a really good concern or suggestion, and you get in a meeting or talk to some guy that's in charge of that sort of thing. And as a community manager, a lot of stuff just comes up. A lot of my schedule is just things that happen. People on the team come and ask me questions, get my opinion or input on certain things, or I'm working on some sort of Photoshop thing, this and that. And I like that. I like the day being really fluid and flexible and keeping me on my toes.
Yeah, my day sounds a lot like Eric's. Actually, it sounds almost identical to Eric's before we launched Stage 2. Now it's kind of more of my typical week, because that would be an ideal day to have, but like he said, there's a lot of stuff that comes up, and being free to play, we've got all, like at the drop of a hat, we can go, oh, well, let's just start this whole campaign next week. Oh, by the way, we need all of this, and a newsletter for the week after that, and then a video, and see if we can sneak in this teaser or get on the Instagram. So that's happening right now, but that's actually happened last week. Yeah, we're planning on so much stuff that we've been teasing, but it's been hectic and it's been crazy, but I like it. It's fun, and there's always something creative that we're doing along with all of the stuff that I'd love to do on a daily basis. But most importantly, I do check all of the social channels. So we are currently on Twitter, Facebook, Steam, Reddit, Instagram, and we have a Discord along with our forums.
Nice.
So we're spread pretty thin, but it's definitely, we want to make it so there's always a place that people can go, and we're watching it so we can take the feedback, let them know that we're there, be very vocal. So we check all those on a daily basis, and the forums, normally there's fires to put out for sure between community members if our moderators aren't sure what to do. So that sometimes can turn into a whole day depending on how crazy something is in the forums. But lately it's just been a lot of content planning and creation of assets. Kind of, I guess it depends on what project you're on or where you are on your project for things like this to happen, but I feel like a community manager's day can be everything from messaging all day to creating assets to producing a live stream. So on a weekly basis, I have to create a content calendar for the next week. In an ideal world, it would be 2 weeks, but it's been really hard.
Or a month.
Yeah, or a month or two. It depends. We were at about 2 months before, yay,
Whoa.
but now we're a week.
You could just work from home the rest of that time.
It's just rolling in. So, but also with the way things are now, we're in a situation where we can put out patches weekly or or multiple a week. And so that causes for a lot of social updates that we're not even expecting sometimes that need to be made. So like Eric said, it is very hectic, but it's great. And if you live for that, if you live for like, well, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, the patch could fail, and then we have to come up with a whole bunch of messaging and then, be behind the community. Or your publisher could tell you you're going to Germany in a week, and then you got to like...
Dream hack, do it!
Yeah. Yeah, it's very unpredictable. But I guess it also depends on what kind of title you're working on. I'm sure working on a mobile title, we had one of those, is different from an MMO, which I've never worked on, or Operation Supply Drop. See how I move into that transition?
I love it.
Well done.
So my typical day is vastly different. So I used to work at a game publisher. I now work at a veteran service organization. I have been given the keys to the castle, so to speak, and told to go do whatever the heck I want. Do you know how mind-numbingly crazy that makes me? Because you're working in the industry, and they're like, nope, nope, nope. I know, nope, nope. You want to? Nope, you can't do that. Don't do that. And here I am now. I can do anything I want. It is just crazy. So the other side of it is I don't have developers that I have to deal with, other than having to call developers and say, hey, we really like your game. We'd really like to stream it. Can you send us some code? Because then we can stream it for free, and then our service members don't have to worry about it coming out of pocket, yada, yada, yada. So my day is vastly different. I would also like to point out something. So community managers are not unique to video games. Believe it or not, community managers are in every single major field there are.
Except for funerals.
No, there are community managers there too, believe it or not.
Wow.
Oh, yeah! It's like the resource too. It's the Community Roundtable. And it's communityroundtable.com.
Yeah.
Check it out. The Community Roundtable is made up of everything. I mean, Nike, Sears, I'm sure Epic is involved there somehow. I mean, they've got everything going on there. When I really started researching community managers and what it is they did and how it is I could become one, I looked immediately to them. And they put out reports every year that say where the communities are as a whole and what kind of trends you should be watching and how you should interact. It's not as simple as I'm just going to make some polls in the forums and get people in there. You really have to know more than that. You have to go beyond the instant gratification and look for the long-term plan. So part of my day is built on professional development. I must go and look at things that other community managers are doing and try and mimic that or improve upon it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Yeah.
My day's vastly different. I also work until sometimes 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Weekend. That's the other thing. We don't sleep. Just in case.
24-hour coverage.
Yeah.
So the next question, Matthew McComber asked, how does a community manager's role change throughout the course of a project, from like when dev is beginning to, even when vast changes happen like on Evolve?
Oh, sorry. I was adjusting my settings and missed.
The question was, how does a community manager's role change throughout the course of a project? I mean, really, anybody can answer that, but I was.
Yes. Thanks. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I failed. I mean, I haven't been around for building the community from the ground up, so I can't put a lot of insight into that part. But I definitely saw changes watching since we were transitioning, and it went from the community manager. Well, it depends on the voice, right? So it depends on what voice you have for what project at the time. Being a community manager for Turtle Rock Studios, we have a voice, and then Evolve has a voice. The voice for Evolve was kind of made before we had a chance to make it ourselves, since that's really put into the publisher's hands at first, especially if they're doing all the marketing. So we did have a sit down as a community team for what kind of voice we wanted as a studio, and then in the beginning we were the ones communicating from Turtle Rock Studios on Evolve channels, but only as Turtle Rock. And And then in the future, kind of like we had a little more flexibility. We could have access to these channels. We could, run the YouTube, run the live stream, so on and so forth. And they just kind of let us have a little more flexibility and control over things. And that's when we decided to create our own voice for Evolve this time around. And so my role kind of changed from being someone who sits in the background and does all the media production while we were in the dark time to somebody who has to, introduce all of these new features and really bring the community together, because there were people who were there from the beginning, and now there's a whole flood of new people. And so the people in the beginning are in a different mindset because they were kind of born with this different voice, right? So they were attracted to our brand with that different voice. So now it's more so with this kind of title, it's just continually growing. There's always more stuff coming out, and it seems that we found kind of our voice. But as far as the community manager's role, I guess it also depends on how many people you have helping you and what your studio is, kind of how it's the foundation of it. So in Turtle Rock, none of us really have real titles, they say. We're all just kind of flat. So opinions are always welcome in the studio, which it's funny because you'll send out, a video or a picture, and then it'll be a flood of like 50 opinions. It's like, no, fix everything, and you're like, it's already going out. but that's kind of, it's like the beauty and a curse, because sometimes it's really great when really good ideas come, or we can really fix something that no one else noticed. But other times it's a lot of people are all over the place, right? So it depends on your studio culture, I would say, or your company culture, what role you have. But ours has definitely transformed, and it will, I think, with each and every title we take on and type of game. So I think it depends on what you're working on.
There's like a fluffy creature behind you.
Oh. She is grooming herself. I'm sorry. She needs to take it in the other room. I'll tell her.
No, it's fine. I was just so distracted because I was see these like limbs just like flying through the air. I'm like, what's happening? Anyways, anyone else like to answer that question?
So I have gone from start to finish with the community, and Lego minifigures online was the game. If you didn't hear about it, don't worry, nobody else did either.
Aww.
We had a very small I'm talking $100 marketing budget.
Oh.
Yeah. They were like, oh, hey, it's Lego. Everybody will come and play. Anyway, so initially it was bring them in, but slowly. We don't want to bring everybody in because the game's not finished yet, so we don't want them to think that, this is what the finished product's going to look like. Then the beta came. Okay, now everybody can come in. We want everybody to play because this is pretty much what it's going to be like. Then the game actually released. We really need every single person to look at this game. That is entirely possible. I don't care if you have YouTubers streaming the game. I don't care if you go and ask your neighbor. Bring everybody in. And then there's the end of development and the end of support of the game, which was just a slow, quiet death.
Oh.
We were told not to post anymore, not to do anything else in the forums, and it just died.
Rip.
It was so heartbreaking because here you put all this time and energy. You're like, okay, we have to figure out how to do a contest with Lego without using the word winner or contest, because Lego is very anti-competitive nature.
Oh, I see.
And we were being, and we didn't own the forums either. What's that?
Random giveaway.
Can't use the word giveaway.
Oh my.
Random benevolence.
We came upon something that was like, someone will randomly receive this item. And it was just that dry. You're talking about finding your voice. Here's, Lego with their, their own restrictions on top of what you already have from your developers, and that's probably why the game died.
Yeah.
But that was hard to finish. There you go. It brings some people in, bring a lot of people in, bring in your mother.
And then nothing. Oh.
Especially if your mother's not competitive.
I mean, really.
Not that you could say she was competitive anyways, because
Or a winner.
All right, so
congratulations to everybody who participated.
Participation awards, those are the best.
Really?
So we have 4 questions left. I'd like to get us through. So let's try and get through those. Belinda had another question. How closely does community management get to work with marketing? Who gets to manage the social media accounts and which ones? And who gets to engage with users, contests, and promotions?
I can say that when we started, it was primarily publisher. In Evolve, we had primarily the publisher was coming in and saying, this is what we're going to do with their brand manager and their marketing team. And then you guys are going to respond with social support and hold live streams. But we took it a step further and built this ridiculous live stream studio because it's the one thing that we had control over, right? So it was a big thing for us to just put everything into that and really make it somewhere you could come for exclusive content and to talk with the devs. And then I saw it slowly transform into, like, it's 2 community managers, so you have a publisher side and a dev side, and then they kind of create ideas together, events, and so on and so forth, with the help of the marketing team. But for the most part, any idea you have has to go through like 3 or 4 like stops before it can make it out the door. So even if you had an idea that was like super exciting for social media or the forums to an extent, it would have to go through all these barriers to even get out. And to be okayed, basically. So it was like that in the beginning, and then slowly, like I said, we gained more control over things. So it went from us running the Troll Rock sites and then helping with the Evolve Game Twitter to now us running all of those things I mentioned earlier: Twitter, Facebook, Steam, Twitch, Instagram, and now we have a Discord that's official that you can come and talk to all the devs on. But we run all that stuff. We use a nifty little program called Percolate. I'm not going to say whether or not I love or hate the nifty program, but a lot of community managers are like, no. No, it works fine. It's just it runs a little slow, and for a community manager, when you're dealing with delicate information, you're like, oh, just set the time right, no, PM, and then sometimes it shoots stuff out.
Did I just hit send? Oh God.
Yeah, sometimes things go out that aren't announced yet, and you're like, no. But anyway, for the most part, it does help with content calendars. But we manage all of that now. And marketing, we are coming up with all the ideas for the marketing and pretty much pushing them forward. And then as far as real like marketing, like as what was mentioned before with the mathematics and the real in-depth marketing, that is dealt with the publisher side. But for the most part, the messaging and the being there and the ideas and the events and the graphics and the big events that we held, it was all kind of the brainchild of what we were able to come up with the new project. So I think it just, again, depends on the project that you're working, or who you're working with, or who's your publisher, who's your studio, what field you're in, because it could be anywhere, movies, anything. So I guess it's all specifics.
Yeah, all sides of the company too is a huge factor. Just if you're a tiny company, you kind of do everything, and if you're a big company, then yeah, it's a lot more distributed.
Mm-hmm.
There again, we were talking about being an ombudsman. You're going to go look that word up now, I can tell. So you are here, you're supposed to be in helping the player. You cannot do that, in my opinion, you cannot do that if you work for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it. You have conflicting interests there. Marketing is trying to sell. You're trying to bring up the players and help them out. So it doesn't mean that you're not under marketing. It just means there's always a conflict of interest there. Mm-hmm. So that's my quick little answer to that one. Grant's muted himself.
I'm sorry. I was updating all of our documentation to say Ombudsman.
He's just mumbling underneath his breath.
I changed the name of the panel to the community manager Ombudsman panel. So.
Did you really? Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
I feel like that's important, like the Ombudsman panel,
Nice.
So, next question from Cockney Charmer. When inspiring a community to engage each other in and outside the game, how vital is it for the CM to be the conduit for both the devs and community? TRS, great example here. Hi, Shaners.
Hi, Cockney Charmer. Well, Ombudsman. It's very true. I mean, I think it's super vital. I mean, the CM has to be passionate for what they're doing. I think otherwise, if the passion's not there, they're not going to be as interactive with the community. They're not going to be pulling that information. They're not going to be finding the person to go to that they need to report it to. They're not going to be actively coming up with easier ways to gather this information and get it, to the right people. So we have like spreadsheets that are for suggestions and bugs and features, and now we have a Trello board that we're finally okay that we can put up and then show the really high-level stuff that we have coming for the game based on what people have asked for. And that, to me, is something that's super important to show the community, like, we're listening, we're here, I'm here. As a community manager, I feel kind of like the mother to my community when I come in, and I have to put my foot down, or I have to try and gather them all together to give me fun stories or share with each other, or kind of jump into games together. We hold streams and try and help everyone meet new people and become more of a community that sticks around, and they really develop relationships. And I think the community manager is super important. Is definitely based on how that community manager feels about what they're working on and their community. I think it reflects greatly on their community and how they're going to act and interact with each other.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
All right.
Good with that. Look, I know we have time. If it's too long, I'm just leaving it alone. Okay.
Feelings.
So Matthew had another question. As a CM, how do you measure the impact of your relationship with the community?
When you don't say anything and they ping you. If
Can
you
you
haven't
expand?
talked, yeah, sure. If you don't talk for 2 or 3 days, and they have their hey, are you okay? What's going on with you? I haven't seen you on Twitter in a minute. Did your account get hacked or something? That's how you know you were engaged.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. I'm not sure if you, by measure your impact, I'm not sure if that means like how well you're impacting the community from a relational point of view, or as a way to kind of report how well you're doing at your job to your superiors or your team or whatever, because that's a whole other thing, and that's kind of tricky, I think, for community managers. I mean, some can do it through social analytics, but that's not really the spirit of community management. But I think what Gray mentioned is super great too. Like, I mean, you can always tell how well you're managing things. Like, if you can, you can joke around with your community, and at the right times, but then you can also be serious, to the point where if you address something that they take you for it. I think as far as that goes, the best the best communicators are the ones that can say something once and they don't have to say it again, and either everybody, kind of quiets down and pays attention, or other people that do kind of distribute that sort of information. And that's when you know you're doing a really good job and you're communicating well, is when that sort of thing happens.
You mentioned statistics and things like that. Numbers, social media numbers.
It probably made you panic.
There's an important term that we all, I think, should be acquainted with, and that is
Ombudsman.
No.
Ombudsman.
So you should be acquainted with that one. No, this is completely. ROI, return on investment.
Yeah.
So, when you are going to work for a video game company or any company really as a community manager, you need to make sure they understand that you are 100% a red line. If you're not familiar with business, what this means is you are not going to be bringing in money. They need to know that. Your job is not to bring them in money.
Yeah.
At best, your job is customer retention. But you
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
measure that, really. You know, that's not a tangible. So you will not have a return on investment. And if you go into an interview and you say, I understand you're looking for a social media community manager, and you say, hey, look, I want you to know something. I'm a red line. I'm going to be, you know, a negative on your dollar amounts there. I will have no return on investment, but I will help you build a community that will just live and breathe by your every move. And
Right. Yeah.
that should seal the deal. There you go.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, you did it. There it is.
Yeah, there you go. And I mean, if anything, if I think that, you know, like advertisers, you know, build brands, you know, awareness or among, you know, your consumers and stuff. And community management is really brand preference. You know, you're doing things that really get your consumers, your players, to really, you know, appreciate. You know, there's so many companies out there that I appreciate, and I'll stick around just because, you know, I felt listened to, or I felt like, you know, they did certain things to communicate with me and develop that sort of bridge between me and them, and then I'll stick with them. And that is definitely something that, you know, I'm always taking, you know, certain things I'm always taking screenshots and, you know, giving feedback and stuff about, you know, when players, you know, come back and say, you know, hey, I really appreciate, you know, you taking the time to help me out with this, or, you know, this is super great and I really love you guys, and, you know, I'll always stick with you guys, and that's super important. But yeah, it is tempting to be sort of to be that sort of analytics thing where you're trying to say, oh, well, we generated this, and I think if anything, those looking at analytics really helps. And this is kind of off tangent from the original question, but that if anything, that shows me how well I'm communicating with the players. Not so much I'm bringing in money by increasing the impressions or whatever, because in that case, if you were to do that, then you'd have an advertisement budget as well.
Yeah, I think what measures it is, like you said, Eric, too, the people coming back and saying, hey, your company is so special. They work so hard for us. Thank you for that. And I've been seeing a flood of that lately, which I feel like I'm in the twilight zone, but it's cool to see all of the work finally paying off. But we've had so much love and so much support from people on Twitter and Facebook just saying, hey, I know this issue's happening, but I'm sticking through it because I can't wait for it to be available to me, or I can't wait to support you because you guys have done so much and have worked so hard. And seeing things like that is kind of back to the Ombudsman thing, where I feel like I'm doing my job because everyone on these social channels is saying how much they love you, Turtle Rock. And, you know, Turtle Rock, you're doing what, you know, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing for getting that message across that makes them feel that way. So it's kind of like this back and forth where I want the studio to understand what they're doing and how they're making people feel to make them feel good and show their hard work is paying off. And I want the community to know that the dev team loves them and is listening to them and getting everything through. So the more I see reception like that, I feel like we've done a really good job, our team has, at really getting across how we feel and how much passion we have for this title.
Right.
One genuine fan is worth more than 20 trolls.
That's true. That's true. I feel you on that one. All right,
so those screenshots.
so we're over time. Thank you guys for taking time to go over time, but I'm going to have you each give like 30 seconds your kind of bit of advice you would give to someone wanting to become a community manager or a new community manager, and then I'm going to close this out so we can all go do whatever it is we're going to do with the rest of our nights. I'm going to play video games.
I'm at work.
All right, who wants to go first?
I'll go first since, you know, that was the tradition. And
you start us off, so you.
Yeah, we'll
start
keep a
finishing.
little parallelism here. I think I'd just really iterate on kind of what we discussed a little bit is, you know, get better at what you're good at. If you're, there's certain skills that you definitely need to have, and some other skills that might be great to have. Like, not every community manager is going to be good at Photoshop, or maybe even being in front of a camera, or certain things like that. But maybe you're super great at writing up release notes or blogs or things like that. So get really good at what you're already passionate about, and get involved. Play games. Whenever I'm interviewing someone for a community role, one of the first things I always ask them are, what games are you playing and have you played our games? Because I don't want to hire someone who's not passionate about games, and or the games, or at least done their homework on, what we're working on too. Because I want to work alongside someone who's, who's done their homework and is really passionate about, what they're wanting to get into and stuff. So do that, get involved, and network too. That's super important.
Network is super important. Yeah, that's what I've found out. Going to any dev drink ups you can find, or just trying to reach out to people on Twitter. I mean, I know I see tweets from people, and I'm not super verified or important or anything, but I will definitely reach back if you reach out to me for help. But yeah, definitely get good at what you're passionate about. Also, be prepared to deal with the best and the worst of the internet. If you can't deal with the worst of the internet, I don't know how you'll deal with being a community manager, because it can get pretty hectic. But definitely see how you feel about those things, and see if you're a glass half empty, glass half full kind of person, or what you can do to really be okay with that and talk people down. One tip that I heard was to make a game out of it. So the more people that you can turn around from being negative and angry, the more you win. So that's one thing that I've kind of perfected, but with kitty gifts. I don't know how it works. But yeah, it's about, it isn't always about who you know, but networking really does help, and really just feeling out if this is what your passion is. And I feel like the more passionate you are, the more likely you're going to get noticed and really get a chance to get into the industry. So it can be hard, but QA is also a way I've seen a lot of people get in and then move up. But also QA could be where you end up if you're good at taking in information and customer service and things like that. So you never know.
Yeah, live QA is, like the live QA on Fortnite is very similar to our community management. There are boots on the ground. They're talking to people every minute of every day. So there is that aspect too.
Yep.
All right, Gray.
All right, it's time. You've been watching this, and you've been watching us talk about community management here, and you've got in the germ in the back of your head an idea of what it is that we do. You need to go and research this stuff. We're not just saying it to make ourselves feel better. We're trying to help you become a better member of our community. We want you to be a good community manager. I want you to be better than all of us are going to be. But the only way you're going to do that is if you get off your ass and you start doing some research, and you get good, and you start putting yourself out there. That's the only way you can do it. You cannot be a community manager sitting on your couch playing video games. It's just not going to happen. That is part of the job, in that you have to play video games to know what's going on, to be able to relate to other people, but ultimately it's up to you. Are you going to put yourself out there, or are you just going to sit on the couch all day? Just do it.
Do it!
Do it!
Yesterday you said tomorrow!
Man, look, people can hate, but that dude is inspiring a generation, and that's great. That's
you
great.
mean me, right? Not Shia LaBeouf. You meant me, right?
Both of you are inspiring a generation.
I'm kind of worried Gray's inspiring a really cranky version of community managers out there.
I have one question for Gray. Did he make his lower thirds with paint?
Actually, yes.
It's pretty good.
That's magic.
Why you gotta hate on my paint? I mean,
It's incredible.
Saves transparency with PNG. It was right there.
Hey, man, hey, it's fun. There's guys out there who can make collages out of hot dogs.
True.
So
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. My wife is the artist in my little household. Yeah, I'm not. No, I deal with the trolls really well. I can deal with them really well.
All right. Well, before we just start devolving into crazy laughter, which I appreciate, I wanted to thank you very much for helping out and for being here and offering amazing advice. I know I've learned a lot about community managers. I have a newfound level of respect for all the trolls you deal with. And there's a creepy Fallout boy.
there's one now.
And once again, thank you guys. Thanks everybody for watching this, and thanks for being part of our little community. And we'll see you next month. Bye.